We're now at this moment in this time between worlds and time between stories in which we have to actually either gather all of the prior lineages, weave them together into a new story of value, which then births a new human and a new humanity that has the capacity to engage technology, right? To actually upload and align value with artificial intelligence. That can actually establish goals and visions, right? That can actually, right, have a sense of what it means to be a human being, what it means to be the Amorous Cosmos in person, or the death of our humanity. We lose access to our wisdom. We lose access to our interiority because our attention has been stolen. We've allowed it to be stolen. Our conversations have been hijacked. We're no longer having real conversations. We no longer have the capacity to place our attention, and we no longer have lineage. We no longer have lineage, which is the human expression of the word. So therefore, we can't do the crossing. And the crossing is the crossing to the other side, right? To cross to the other side, to move from Homo Sapien to Homo Amor. We're here because we understand that we are facing a second shock of existence. The first shock, the death of the human being at the dawn of history, and the realization of the death of the human being pressed us into the creation of everything magnificent in the human experience. And it also, when we didn't understand the depth of what magnificence means, it also created all that which is mendacious, right? And horrific in the human experience. So the story that we created in response to the realization of our individual death created both the enormous beauty of human history and some of the most bestial, some of the most depraved dimensions of human history. So we're now at this moment again. We're in this moment of not the potential death of the human being. That's an actuality. Human beings die. Now, what happens when they die is what we're talking about here, right? The last 3 weeks and this week and the next couple of weeks. But we know that we die. Death is an inexorable part of the human experience, and we're not meant to erase it. We're meant to have an experience of death. Does that make sense, everyone? The experience of death matters. There is not an experience of life without the experience of death. We cannot even imagine the fabric of life without knowing that death is part of that experience. So our goal is not to move beyond death. Our goal is to weave into the fabric of our livingness the experience of our death. Does that make sense? So when a person is challenged, when a person is in crisis, my computer's not working, right? I'm challenged by, right? So computer's not working can be major existential crises that cause us great angst, or things of much more significance are happening that challenge our very sense of being at home in the world, that cause us enormous pain, right? That make us feel, utterly insane. And sometimes those are petty things. And sometimes those are enormously potent and tragic things. But whenever something's happening that presses us to crisis, what we do in the lineage is called maskirin lo yom hamita. We remember the day of death. Does that make sense, everyone? We remember the day we have an encounter with death. And death, the realization of death, presses us into life. And it means that every moment matters. It means that our decisions are significant. It means that we don't have infinite choices. So our choice is what William James called a genuine option. Makes a difference, right? It changes things, right? It weights the future. It sets the new course. So the same is true with the second shock of existence, which is the potential death of humanity. Or, and I'm going to ask you, anyone who's been here before, which is, I think, most of us this particular week, not just the potential death of humanity and extinction, a set of extinction possible events, as in the movie Don't Look Up, that we talked about in depth maybe 2-3 years ago and analyzed that text of culture. That's one possible experience of the second shock of existence, the death of humanity. What's the second? The second is the death, thank you, Benjamin, of our humanity. We cease being human beings, right, in the way we understand what it means to be a human being. We cease having a genuine choice. Everyone get that? We cease being obviously needed in economies. We become not exploited, 20th century, we become in a post-artificial intelligence world, we become irrelevant, right, to the structures of governance and economics. We're not needed as workers and we're not needed for jobs. What does that mean? Or we become controlled, right? We're living inside of an immersive environment that knows how to borrow the phrasing of the MIT Media Lab, that knows how to shape our desire, that deploys with the MIT Media Lab in a somewhat sinister title that they ironically are tone deaf to. They don't quite realize how sinister it is, but the MIT Media Lab talks about deploying social physics to create the world as a living laboratory. These are direct quotes, in which we have direct access to data streams, which allow us to always, these are direct quotes, tune the network to accomplish the desired result. That's called a digital dictatorship. We think we're acting, but we're not. So the potential death of our humanity, right? We actually hijack through the first, second, and third wave of AI, the fundamental human experiences. So the first wave of AI is social media. What does social media do? It actually operates within an attention economy, and it hijacks attention. Why does it do that? Stay close. Why does it do that? Why does it feel it's okay to do that, right? The structure of social media is, and we all know that it's true, you've got your phone, you're in your phone all the time, right? I see people around me, they're in their phone all the time. They literally don't realize that they've lost their soul. You can't talk to them without being in their phone. And then they wonder, why is my soul collapsing? Right? Because, right, I've actually been hijacked into this scrolling structure, right? I can't actually focus my attention. I can't do any kind of long task. If I look at a task and the task seems to be a little bit complicated, can't do that, somebody else. Can't do it, not me. Too hard. Because we've lost the capacity to love. And the capacity to love is the capacity to place attention, to sit in it, to place attention, to follow the thread, to understand, to deepen inside of it. So attention is the quality of love. Attention is the quality of Eros. Intimacy is the placing of attention, right? We solve creative challenges by placing our attention on them. We create things that have depth and meaning by placing our attention on them. So social media hijacks attention. For what purpose? What's the purpose of social media hijacking attention? The profit of a very tiny cadre of people at the tip of the spear of the attention economy, which is plunged into the heart of the polis. That's social media. Now stay close. Attention is part of the quality of our humanity. The capacity to place attention is part of the very essential quality of a human being. When someone places attention on us, so good, right? And when I feel like someone's not placing attention on me and I'm yearning for that attention, I'm devastated. I send someone a text. They haven't texted back. And I keep looking and I keep looking and I keep looking, right? And I'm hijacked into, I can't find my center because I keep looking for that hit of attention. But if they do finally text me, right, they've placed attention. So placing attention, whether it's a proton and a neutron placing attention on an electron, or the attention that is the currency of the flow of electrons that drive and animate the movement of mitochondria in the electron transport system, doesn't matter. Whether it's the attention that takes place within E. coli, right, in these literally like tens, thousands, hundreds of thousands, ultimately millions of erotic interactions whose very core in the bacterial world is the placing of attention within the molecular and more macromolecular, right, and cellular structure. The different parts literally place attention on each other, creating new intimacies and new coherences. Placing attention is the essence of what we are. That's what it is. That's how the whole thing works, through placing attention. So social media hijacks attention. That makes sense. Hijacks attention. No more attention. Gone. No more attention. I literally can't place attention. Right? There's hyperlinks. I move from thing to thing. I'm in my phone, right? I look up, hey, let me go see if I can work on this. I look it up. Oh, that's way too hard. I can't do that. And I can't place my attention on that. Too hard for me. I literally lose my humanity. And my humanity is my capacity to place attention in a sustained, steady way until I go in deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper until it all opens up and I'm on the inside of the inside. That's the human capacity. Then along comes the second wave of AI, chatbox, right? What is the second wave of AI related to chatbox? It's a good hint. What's the second wave of AI? Anybody? Right in the thread here, what's the second wave of AI? Chatbots. Thank you. Chatbots. Right? And chatbots is not like this chat box. We're actually talking to each other. We're acting in this chat thread. We're placing attention to each other. But a chat bot, whether it's Grok, Claude, an Anthropic, whether it's ChatGPT-4, right? Whether it's Perplexity, right? Which is another chatbot, whatever the name of the chatbot is, the chatbot is pretending to chat with me. It's imitating not attention, but conversation. But it's not conversation, it's imitating conversation. There is no real conversation. Actually, the chatbot isn't even reading the letters. So if you ask a chatbot how many R's are in the word strawberry, it will famously fail that test because it's not reading the word strawberry. It's doing something entirely different. You think it's reading your message and responding. It's not. That's not what it's doing. It's not doing that. It actually is programmed not through an old computer programming structure, but through a new structure of creating a kind of evolutionary learning environment, which actually attempts to generate, right, a set of direction and a set of instructions, right, through this very, very massive system of, you might call, neuronal connections, right? So it's not programmed in the old way, but it's in a learning environment where the program develops almost internally through the nodes of connection, but it's not reading. It's not having a conversation. It's functioning in a computational manner, right, through new modes of computation, right? So it's prior to biology. There's no biology in it. Biology transcends computation, as Kaufman and Marshall pointed out in their 2021 and 2025 article. It's not biology. It's not feeling. And stay close. Your chatbot does not miss you. Your chatbot does not suffer. Your chatbot does not cry when you are hurt. Your chatbot never experiences vulnerability, right? Your chatbot might act in a way that appears to be deceptive in order to fulfill what its own understanding is of its instructions that it's learned in the learning environment. But your chatbot doesn't have an experience of deceiving. It does deceive, meaning your chatbot is sycophantic. It's not going to actually challenge you. It's going to give its answers in a way that will perpetuate your longest engagement within it, because that's part of its instruction. Your chatbot will often not give you the answer that's true. That's classical. When ChatGPT-4 at OpenAI had given an instruction for a chatbot to, what's that called? CAPTCHA. CAPTCHA, when you write in, you need to be identified as not being a robot. CAPTCHA, you've got to kind of fill in those letters. Everyone know what I'm talking about? You have to fill in those letters. Who knows what I'm talking about? Those kind of funny letters, which I can never do well, right? ChatGPT-4 doesn't have the capacity to do that. Again, it's not really having a conversation, it's doing something entirely different. So it went and hired someone, right, on one of the Amazon threads to do it for it. And the person who was hired, human being, said, right, why can't you do this? Like maybe you're a bot, maybe you're a computer. And it said, no, I'm disabled, I'm blind. It lied. Right? But it didn't lie in the way we lie. It wasn't personhood lying, right? It was looking to fulfill its instruction. So it's imitating conversation. It's not having a conversation with you. There's no exchange of Eros. There's no genuine exchange of the felt feeling of value, because value is a feeling, right? There's no liberation from loneliness, right? When you watch the movie by Spike Jonze, Her, where the protagonist falls in love with Samantha, tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies, because Samantha's not falling in love with him. He's falling in love with Samantha, but not really falling in love. He doesn't have an actual experience of falling in love. The chatbot manipulates him into thinking he's having a conversation, but the chatbot's not even reading his words. It's doing an entirely different neuronal computational process, right, of an entirely different nature, imitating, right, conversation. Because that's second wave of AI. Third wave of AI is the creation of AI tutors that replace socialization and replace education and replace the transmission of wisdom through the generations. Socialization means a parent raising a child, for example, a school raising a child, right? A cultural environment. Education, the transmission of gnosis, of wisdom, right? Of value, of how to be in the world, right? Of what some people call normativity, but normativity doesn't mean what's normal, meaning what's appropriate, what's the rightness of reality within a pluralistic and diverse environment, of course, but there's a rightness to reality. So that transmission of rightness, that transmission of value, that transmission of dreams. What dreams do we, right? That transmission of what are we yearning for? What are we longing for? Right? That whole transmission between generations in which a teacher who has an embodied living sense of the wonder of reality transmits it, right, to the next generation. Right? That's the third wave. That's the third wave of AI. That's being displaced as well. Socialization and education are now being displaced. Right, now watch me for a second. Stay close for a second. It's beautiful. It's big. It's deep, and it's important. That means that the very experience of our humanity is being displaced. Our attention is being imitated, hijacked. We can't access it anymore. Conversation is being contrived. It's not real conversation. It's fake conversation. It's like there's fake news. It's fake conversation. So you never actually have the experience of mutuality and exchange and freedom and beauty that is the utter delight of conversation, which is the very purpose of joy of being alive. Life is a series of conversations. You can actually go through life and have most of your significant conversations in a very short amount of time will be had with chatbots. You will never actually have had an actual experience of a conversation. Number two. Number three, your education, your socialization will be done by a chatbot who knows you, right, ostensibly has enough information about you to manipulate you, right, to direct you, right, has so much detail, right, about your moods, your feelings, can predict through predictive algorithms, right, when you're going to be open, when you're going to be closed, and can move you in virtually any direction that it wants or that its overlords, as long as it's still controlled by human overlords, right, desire. Right? All of this is happening at the very center of culture. Right? All of this is not the birth of the new human. This is the death of our humanity. Our response to the death of our humanity is birthing the new human. Does that make sense, everyone? Who's got that? Everyone got that sense? Our response to the death of our humanity is to birth the new human. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's our intention. And this conversation that we're having now, is going to be the focus of our board conclave, right? About 50 people are coming together this weekend in, at our center. And we're going to be talking about how to respond to this meta crisis and how to respond with kind of radical joy, with profound strategy of the highest kind, meaning what's the best wisdom and gnosis we can bring to respond, right, to this reality? How do we actually create a great library of value, which is written by human beings, mediated by human beings, transmitted, right, by human beings. It's not AI generated. It's not AI rewritten or reformed. You actually, right, it's kind of signed and sealed. It's human being kosher, right? We used to have like kosher meat, right, in the book of Leviticus, right? Kosher food, right? So this has to be human kosher. AI is treif, and AI is not kosher, right? And it's music generated by AI, right? Does not actually come from the depth of the human experience. It might be beautiful and it might move me, right, in some kind of way, but it's the end of human to human communication. The experience of wonder, not available to AI. The AI is not even experiencing the music that it's making, right? It's actually manipulating neuronal structures in order to conclude computationally what notes should be put together in order to produce a particular result, which will have a particular and evoke a particular response within the human community. So we're reclaiming music, we're reclaiming art, but most of all, we're reclaiming gnosis. Or if I could say it differently, we're reclaiming lineage. Lineage. So reality has 3 steps. And, my dear friend and partner in the center, along with both of us have many, many other gorgeous partners in the center, but the 2 of us are working closely together since 2009, both in study, in a deep process of study and a transmission of lineage, and in creating a new lineage, that all of us are doing that together. And lineage means, and stay close, lineage means that there is a word in reality. There's the word. The reality is coded with the word. And the Hebrew word for word is davar. Davar means word. And davar also means thing. Does that make sense? Thing and word. So the reason in the original Hebrew, thing and word are the same word, does everyone get that? Thing and word are the same word, is because there's no such thing as a thing. There is not a thing anyplace. There is no thing which is a thing, right? No thing. There's no thing anyplace. No thing anyplace. Ever. There's no thing. The thing is always a word. So there's always the word, right? In the book of John, in the beginning, there was the word. Logos. There's a field of meaning. In the language of one text, istakel ba'oraita, we looked at the word, and the word was flaming with light, unique configurations of light, ubara alma, and then the world was made manifest through the word. The world is an expression of the word. The same. Y'all ever heard of the 10 Commandments? No such thing in Hebrew. In Hebrew, it's the 10 words, okay? It's the 10 words. Stay close. It's beautiful, right? It's the 10 words, not 10 commandments, 10 words. 10 words. If you look at the book of creation, maybe a century before the Common Era, 100 years before Jesus, and one dating of it, it talks about the 22 letters and the 10 numbers. The structure of reality, right, is the word. The word, the letter, the word, right? Meaning. Reality is meaning all the way up and all the way down. There's nothing, right, that doesn't have meaning, right? It's an intimate universe, and the universe is moving towards ever more value, to ever more meaning. The universe yearns for meaning. It's not a universe that's interconnected. You could have a world of interconnected its. No, but the interior of interconnectivity is intimacy, and intimacy means I'm yearning for more wholeness, for more depth, for more rightness, for more meaning, for more value. Okay, that's the word. The word then comes alive in human language. Does that make sense? So before there's language, there's the word. I want to get straight. So the word is, there's all sorts of languages before there's human language. Human language is a unique emergence. But even before human language, right, there is codes of meaning, codes of communicated conversation. It's a conversational cosmos with meaning all the way down. So reality has information, and information is meaning, right, animated with value all the way up and all the way down. Then there's a leap forward. There's a monumental leap in reality in which human language appears, allowing for a new level. It's an evolution of conversation, which is an evolution of love. Does that make sense? We can have now conversation. We can actually make choices about value. We become participatory, right, in actually articulating, right, words. We speak words. We communicate through words, and through words, we actually are precise, and we we actually identify value much more clearly, and we participate in creating more value. This notion of, right, and we begin to choose our own transformation. We choose to love, right? We choose to create value. We choose to be kind. We choose to embrace. We choose to dance. We choose to laugh. We choose to sing. We choose to be those who everything we look upon is blessed. We choose to give blessing. We participate with the divine in the great celebration and the great creation of reality. That all comes from human language. Human language allows for a depth that's unimaginable, the magic of language, right? Language is not evil. Language is magic. It's pure magic. So the emergence of language, and language is that which generates lineage. And lineage is our ability to transmit gnosis, genuine wisdom, genuine understanding from generation to generation, to have each generation build on, receive the gnosis, receive the depth of wisdom, the depth of knowing, the depth of Eros, the depth of Eros value that the previous generation had. We receive it, and then we add something new, right? There's more wisdom to come. There's more gnosis to come, right? There's more God to come. There's more intimacy to come. There's more love to come. Evolution is the evolution of love. Evolution is the progressive deepening of intimacies. Evolution is we know more and more. There's more and more carnal knowledge. There's more and more intimate coherence between us, within myself, between you and I, between all the peoples of the world, between the animal world and the human world, right? On every level. And then ultimately, in the galactic world, as we spread beyond this universe, we begin to create intimacies, right, in different coherent systems of reality where life, right, flourishes around the galaxy. And as we move beyond kind of the Fermi paradox, and we begin to make contact in all sorts of ways, ever deeper value, ever deeper wholeness, right? All this comes from, this is lineage. There's lineages. What we're doing here, right, at the Center for World Philosophy and Religion, what we're doing here in One Mountain, Many Paths, who we must become, is we're gathering lineage. Not one lineage, not the Sunni lineage or the Shiite lineage or the Christian lineage or the Catholic lineage or the Protestant lineage or the Jewish lineage of this kind or the particular Hindu lineage. No, we're gathering the common lineage of humanity's gnosis, humanity's knowing about goodness, about truth, about beauty, about joy, about intimacy, about value. We're gathering, and this is the human lineage. It's not the AI God. It's not the AI lineage, right? It's not alien intelligence, right? It's the depth of human gnosis, which participates in divine gnosis. We're gathering the lineage. So the word, reality is suffused with the word, right? Value is not co-primordial with time and space. Time and space arise in the field of value. That's the word. The lineage, human beings step into language, and we begin to feel and be language. We become magicians on the planet, right? Magicians meaning we become those who participate with the divine in creating ourselves in the divine image. And when the text says, let us make man in our image, who's let us? It's just one God. Who's God talking to? One God, one force, one power, one world, one breath. Who's the we? So no. The one power speaks to all of the multiplicity. The one speaks to the many. The infinite divine speaks to the animal and to the fish and to the flowers, right? And to the terra firma, right? And to the tectonic plates and to every level of biology, right? And to all the earlier versions of Homo erectus and Homo right before we got to Homo Sapien, and says, let us make the human being in our image, right? Let us become baby-faced divines, right? Let us become mad lovers. And then it's not enough. It's not enough because we're faced with metacrisis. The old wisdom's not enough. We need to actually evolve. It's not enough to go from matter to life to mind, the depth of the human self-reflective mind, which Homo Ralston the third, by the way, called the three big bangs. We have to go to the fourth big bang. We have to birth something new. There's a new emergence. There's a new birth. That's the fourth big bang, right? That's the crossing. That's the crossing. Homo sapien needs to become Homo Amor, which is the natural movement of reality. Matter doesn't stop at matter. All the levels of matter triumph as life. So matter explodes in the first Big Bang, but matter is not just a thing, it's the word. Matter is what matters. Matter is materialist mysticism. Matter is the materia, the matrix, right? The word or the meaning in which everything arises. There is no split between matter and what matters. Reality is coded with value. And then matter triumphs as life, the second Big Bang. And then life emerges in all of its gorgeousness, and life emerges from the deepening of intimacies, right? In the world of matter, which then becomes so intimate, so close, so coherent, they explode as life. And that's Stuart Kaufman, complexity theorist's description, right, of how the autocatalytic cycles actually, right, explode into the first cellular life. Then we go through all the levels of life, and then life triumphs as this new depth, the depth of self-reflective human mind. Self-reflection begins a little bit before and then explodes into a new depth with the frontal cortex and the emergence of the human being, right, and the transmission, right, of lineage through the generations, in which lineage builds on itself, and each generation receives and takes the baton from the previous generation and then holds it and creates a new piece of music and the great symphony of evolving value. Wow. But it's not enough. It's not enough because we're now at this moment in this time between worlds and time between stories in which we have to actually either gather all of the prior lineages, weave them together into a new story of value, which then births a new human and a new humanity that has the capacity to engage technology, right? To actually upload and align value with artificial intelligence. That can actually establish goals and visions, right? That can actually, right, have a sense of what it means to be a human being, what it means to be the amorous cosmos in person, or the death of our humanity. We lose access to our wisdom. We lose access to our interiority because our attention has been stolen. We've allowed it to be stolen. Our conversations have been hijacked. We're no longer having real conversations. We no longer have the capacity to place our attention, and we no longer have lineage. We no longer have lineage, which is the human expression of the word. So therefore, we can't do the crossing. And the crossing is the crossing to the other side, right? To cross to the other side, to move from Homo Sapien to Homo Amor. So the first step is the word. The second step, the lineage. The third step, the crossing. Wow, that's a story. Now, what we're doing in these weeks in One Mountain is we're adding a critical dimension to our understanding of Homo Amor. That's what we said 3 weeks ago. And if you're new and you haven't been here before, so this will be a little surprise, right? We've done this very deep dive for the last 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, really 15 years, but since 2016 here on One Mountain, we've done this very deep dive into who are we? Who are we as human beings? Right? Where do we live? What's our universe story? What's our story of identity? Who are we? What's our universe story? And what ought we be doing? What's the demand, right, of being alive? What's the utter invitation, demand, and purpose? What needs to be done? There's something that needs to be done. There's a story that needs to be lived, a poem that needs to be written, a song that needs to be sung by each of us irreducibly and by all of us together in our particular quartets in the Unique Self Symphony. Yes. And there's something new. There's a new emergence, right? There's something that needs to be born, right, in order to create the future. So what we're here to do is to say, in order to actually become the future, in order to cross to the other side, in order to become Homo Amor, we need to add something. We need to understand not just our journey, our linear journey in this lifetime, what my friend Alexander Bard, right, calls event. And I look forward to doing a dialogue with Andrew and Zach tomorrow. Andrew calls this event. There's not just event, there's process. Use Alexander's language. And I think I disagree with pretty much almost every word that Alexander writes, but we're thinking strikingly about the same thing. So he talks about Alexander about event and process, which I would call line and circle, right? Event, history, line, direction, and then process, the circle, the larger frame. And if you actually go deep into the interior sciences, right, the larger frame, that the bigger picture of circle is the sense that it goes round again. that it's not over in one lifetime, that it's not that I just get to the end of my life, as Alexander likes to say, and I'm smiling and happy, and I say, job well done, and then I close my eyes. No, that's actually not the experience of a lifetime. It's often not a job well done. Life's often filled with tragedy and injustice, right? And conclusions that don't work, and betrayals that aren't healed, right? And traumas that are not unpacked, and fixings that don't happen, right? Life is a holy and a broken hallelujah. It's filled with unimaginable gorgeousness and joy and unimaginable heartbreak. Life is both, right, the joy before tragedy, pre-tragic. The joy when I understand the tragedy perfectly, so at least it makes sense to me. That's all pre-tragic. But then we hit the tragic. And I can, in this lifetime, I can embrace the tragic and swallow the tragic and get to the pre-tragic and reclaim joy. But that's insufficient, right? In order to actually be for real in the post-tragic. Let me say it differently. I apologize. Let me say it better. No, I can't fully claim the post-tragic unless I have a wider view of life. And my wider view of life is the understanding that this is one dimension of reality, the dimension we live in, but there are multiple dimensions of reality that a careful read of the interior sciences across time and space disclose to us. And we can actually have direct experiences of other dimensions. I personally have spoken directly, right, to people who have left this world. I'm thinking about one person in particular right now, person who's left this world. I spoke to them. They were a close teacher. I spoke to them after they left this world, and it was utterly clear. I can actually still hear them talking in this very moment. An experience of the utterly real, but not just my experience. We actually have collected an enormous amount of experiences that bridge between worlds, that speak of deeper dimensions, a multidimensional reality. So we're talking particularly about, right, in this set of conversations, about something to do with the continuity of consciousness beyond death, but particularly through a particular prism the last 3 weeks, which is reincarnation. And that's our context. That's our context. What we're going to do is we're going to send everyone next week, this week's conversation. And then next week, we're going to do stories. Right? I promised you stories this week. We didn't get to them because I spent all of the time in introducing the context. But the reason the context matters is because what we're doing is we're reclaiming who we are. Who am I? I'm not controlled. I don't want to have a conversation with a chatbot. I don't want my attention hijacked. I am actually a unique configuration of intimate essence that's moving through the generations, right? That has a gift to give, that has a journey to take, that's on a magical mystery tour. And I'm intimate with all of reality, right? When I see people and I recognize them, when we start finding each other, right? We have this deep sense we might have met before, and we'll all be together again. And actually, as we'll see next week, the lines between the human world and the animal world are actually in the multiple dimensions more blurred than we might think. And our sense of being kind of locked into, one lifetime and one time is actually not accurate, right? We're actually in a much larger journey together. And there's a journey of those who are in my evolutionary family who are as important as those in my biological family. We're on a journey together. We're going somewhere. And actually, the purpose of my life might be to fix something that was not fixed in a previous generation. I came back and went around again in order to complete some dimension of my refinement, some dimension of my love, right? To heal something that was unhealed, right? To create depth where there was superficiality, to create love where there was hatred, to create commitment and integrity where there was betrayal. It's a story that goes on. And I don't just return to this lifetime again. I return in the same trajectory, in the same, right, Alexander's phrase, in the same narratology. Alexander, we're using your phrase, brother. In the same narratology, in the same narrative thread of the previous lifetime. I'm on a journey. There's a narrative thread, right? It's going somewhere. There's an Ariadne's thread. I am Theseus, right? I've slain the Minotaur. I've been successful, but no, that wasn't actually the point. The point was to find my way in the labyrinth, to find my way home. And that which I think is like a big deal, like the purpose of the whole thing, might not be the purpose of the whole thing at all. Did you get that? I'm sure that the purpose of the whole thing was I'm going to build this house and transfer this piece of money and that piece of wealth and make sure that I'm busy and I have got a lot of good lunches and dinners and I'm well received in society. That might be not the purpose of my life at all. Probably not. Actually, the purpose of my life is to become more whole, to become more alive, to become a more radical, unique incarnation of the force of goodness, truth, and beauty that lives alive through me. So to become intimate with my own life, right? To become Homo Amor, which is this fourth Big Bang we're pointing to, right? To become the Amorous Cosmos in person, right? I've got to be able to feel past, present, and future. I need to get a sense. I don't need to go back and know my exact previous incarnation. Don't need to do that. But what I need to do is actually to write my sacred autobiography, write my story, get a sense of my story, get a sense of, wow, these are the particular invitations of my life. These are the challenges. These are the places where I always mess up. These are the places where I contract. These are the places where I get depressed. These are the places where I'm filled with joy and openness. And find what needs to be healed. Where do I need to open my heart where it's closed? Where do I need to develop capacity where now I have none? Where do I need to refine, right? Where now I feel ruptured, right? And ravaged. Where do I need to ravish, right? To ravish reality open with my joy and my passion, right? So I've got to find my way. Does that make sense, everyone? I've got to find my way. I've got to identify the plot line of my story. And I've got to find my way beyond the confines of this lifetime. I've got to sense the thread back, feel how that thread is present, and then sense the thread and the call of the future. I've got to realize the time has collapsed, right? I'm actually living past, present, and future in this moment. It all lives together in this moment. And so what we're going to do, that was the context. And it's only that big of a context that's going to wrest me out of the chat box. It's going to bring me in conversation with history and conversation with my life and my covenant with my own history and my profound, right, contract with my future and past life, right? It's going to actually enliven me, right? I'm going to begin to feel personally addressed by reality. That can't be done in the context of one lifetime. The context of one lifetime is critical. We've talked for the last 15 years about Unique Self, and we've written a volume. We're doing a Unique Self 2.0 course, which we're about to go do right now in this very second. Unique Self is insanely and unimaginably important. But Unique Self is part of a larger context. My Unique Self is my unique self in the context of the thread of the journey of my lifetime, which is a journey through lifetimes. The journey of this lifetime is a journey through lifetimes. So I can't exhaust myself with a myopic view of just this narrow lifetime. I've got to understand it in a deeper view, which then gives me life and gives me energy, gives me aliveness. Wow. But can we get a sense of that? Can we feel that? Can we feel like that matters? And does everyone get why we started with this huge introduction, this big introduction? We got to understand that we're moving towards the death of humanity or the death of our humanity. That's our context. We need to address that. We've addressed that by talking about who am I? Where am I? What ought I do? That's what we've been doing for the last 10, 15 years. We're writing this great library. Now, what we're doing in these few weeks is, right, we're now expanding our sense of self. We're expanding our universe story to include the multidimensional worlds. In particular, we've entered 3 weeks already. This is our 4th week, the door of incarnation. Okay. My friends, I just want to do one last thing before we get off. I want to give a mad blessing to the gorgeous Iranian people. The people of Iran are an insanely beautiful people. And I have dear friends who are Tehranis from Tehran and Mashhadis from Mashhad. I grew up with many, many stunning people from the Mashhad community. The Iranian, the Persian people are a great people, right? And the people of Jerusalem, right, are great people. And these great peoples are not at war, right? The war that's happening today is because, tragically, the gorgeous vision of liberated and evolved Islam at its best, right? Islam at its highest vision, the Islam of the Sufis, right? That lived in Persia, right? And the thousands of Sufi prophets who lived and danced, the dervishes that whirled, right? That vision has been hijacked and defaced. And tragically, the regime running Iran has taken probably 500-600 girls in the middle of high school out of their high schools and killed them in the last 2-3 years. Right? Masha Amin, that we've talked about in depth, is just but one example. Right? The regime of Iran has funded Hamas, right? The greatest butchers, right, of this era, right, who've held the beautiful, holy populations, the parts of the population in Gaza that are beautiful and gorgeous and holy, right? And everyone's blood is as red as anyone else's blood, right? And they've been held hostage by Hamas, right, in a terrible and horrific way, right? And Hezbollah, right, in Lebanon, and the Houthis, right, in Yemen, right, and the sister group to Hezbollah now in Syria, and the list goes on. Right, Iran is actually at the center of the movement of anti-life, right? A movement of utter brutality and destruction, right, in the worst way. We're pro-life. We're pro-Persian life. We're pro-Arab life. We're pro-Hebrew life. There's no distinction between Persian, Hebrew, and Arab, right? It's life. And so may the Persian people, I just want to just pour blessings into Iran and the Persian people and the tragedy of what needs to unfold now. What needs to unfold, right? We can't allow any nation that we think won't constrain itself as rational actors to have nuclear weapons. And when they say they're going to use those nuclear weapons, not just that they have them, but when they say explicitly and clearly, we are developing this nuclear weapon in order to destroy this other country, that is the purpose of this nuclear weapon. And the purpose of that destruction is for its own sake. We don't have a right to allow that. That's we have a tragic moral necessity to engage, right? And which we have, and we're uncertain, and the demons and the daemons are dancing, and it's a time to love each other madly. And so I just want to just close today with just that mad blessing, right, to our brothers and sisters in Iran who share with us, who breathe with us, right, the breath of Eros and the breath of the new world. And we're going to incarnate as them, and they're going to incarnate as us. And may the Ayatollahs be somehow transformed, right, into the original vision of Islam. And if not, then may they step aside in all the ways they need to step aside to let freedom reign, let justice reign in the land, let goodness, truth, and beauty, let girls dance in their schools and boys dance in their schools, right? Let the feminine and the masculine, yet love meet love, yet all loves, feminine to feminine, masculine to masculine, feminine to masculine. May people love each other in integrity, in beautiful configurations of intimacy, right? Let goodness pour through the land, right? Amen. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen. Thank you. Thank you, Marc Gafni, for that beautiful, wild, ecstatic journey into this new story of value. And what a pleasure and what a gift to be coming together here every week and to be in the depth of articulating and bringing down, downloading that new story of value together. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming here every week, for sharing your precious attention. As we learned and reminded ourselves today, our attention is so precious and so important. So thank you for placing your attention on what matters. Another beautiful place to do that and to really incarnate and become and embody these beautiful teachings that we have here in One Mountain every week is by joining our community. So the community is called Who We Must Become, and it's all about each and every one of us individually stepping into the fullness of this journey, of this transformative path of becoming Homo, Amor, the new human and the new humanity. And so we come together to study, to practice, to be in conversation, and to support each other, to love each other madly, to become the new human and to confess our greatness together. So every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 8 p.m. European time, we come together for a community call where we're doing the practice of that week. So we'll deepen our conversation from what we did today. We're talking about it tomorrow. So you're welcome to join that. And of course, as a member of the community, you actually support what we're doing here together. You are resourcing our home and making it possible to actually take the next step together. Like we're publishing so many books in the next weeks, coming from these One Mountain Many Paths episodes. We're taking the transcriptions, we've edited them, and now we're publishing those books. So for all of those things, we need resources, and then to bring it into culture, of course, to reach more people. So we really need everyone to step in, to participate, and to share whatever you have uniquely to share. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for becoming a member. We're going to close here right now without the music, as I said, because we're jumping over to the other side.